Good morning, ma'am.
Good
So,
morning, sir.
welcome you once again. So, ma'am, first
Thank you
of
very much,
all,
sir.
thank you for the wonderful sessions on the scale development. There's a lot of people who really appreciated it and found it very useful. At the same
Thank you,
time,
sir.
ma'am, there are certain queries, though it's a very, for the starters, queries from the starter. So, we thought of like if you can answer those queries, that will be really great.
Sure. Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I would try I would try to address these queries of the
Sure, ma'am.
scholars because that is the basic purpose also, sir.
Right, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
So, ma'am, like the first query says that you said we are starting with a scale because there is not a good scale in this area. And then in the phase one itself, we said that you go with the review of literature and try to find out the items there. So, is it like contradictory? On one side, we are saying there is no scale, but then we are searching. So, please elaborate that.
No, 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 no. So actually, because it would vary from one study to the other study, first of all. In our case, what happened actually, we found that literature was sufficient on theory of constraints. Secondly, the paper written by Gupta and Boyd in 2008, 2008. So they tried to develop some items regarding those three M's: mindset, measurement, methodology, which may not be the case otherwise. This might, you may consider it to be an exceptional case. Normally what happens in case of scale development is, yes, some literature might be available, theoretical literature, some conceptual definitions might be given regarding that particular concept, whose construct you want to develop. But the thing is, now the main question which comes to the scholar is how to develop the items from those I mean, the literature which is available to you, the conceptual papers or the articles which are available to the scholar, from those, literature review, whatever the scholar would review, he has to generate items on his own. This is one way, sir. Because again, I would say, if a scholar feels that not sufficient, amount of literature is available, hardly one or few, or he has just read a particular, maybe an article on that particular concept. Now what he would do, so that is the beginning means to how would he go about developing a skill, because sufficient literature is not available. So you can say that there are 3 4 different situations. One is where literature is not available. Second is literature is available but nobody has developed the skill. Third is literature is available, items are also available, but nobody has, still those items, they are not completely developed, and you need to, do some exercise regarding that. So this is the third, is our situation. We got some items, but we refined those items after going through those interview process, and then finally we tested those, measured those items. We I mean, then everything else, after measurement, we refined those items and validation was done. That is the third situation pertains to us. But in the first case, when the concept has been vaguely defined, that's it. There is not many not many articles or the papers published on that particular concept. So in that case, the best approach to follow is to go for qualitative study. First of all, as a researcher, then it becomes our duty to first define that concept, because literature is not available. So what we need to do, so that is an exploratory study. That is an exploratory study, because you need to define a concept, and then you would try to generate more literature, in the sense, you would try to write down more regarding that concept only. For that, what is required is that you need to conduct the interviews. Then the process of interviews, conducting the interviews, then recording those interviews, then going for the item analysis, the content analysis, though that procedure has to be followed in the first situation, when even the concept has not been defined properly. Right, sir? The second literature, so the second situation is where the literature is available, but nobody has actually defined it, or maybe you would find there would be 2 3 different definitions given to that concept. Now, as a researcher, what we need to do is, if you want to carry forward with that particular amount of literature, body of literature, we need to define it properly, and then we would be able to generate the items, because we have literature with us. Right, so I'm not saying that we would be able to define the dimensions of that concept. No, we do not know. But only thing is, what we can do is we can generate the items. With the help of whom? With the help of the academicians only. The academicians means the persons, the people who are well aware of that particular concept. With the help of those people only, then we can generate the item. So there are these three situations. Now it depends, which concept a scholar wants to develop. One is no literature available. Second is literature available, but the concept has not been well defined, and no items have been developed. So then you need to start with the definition of that concept, and you have to extract the items from the literature itself. And third is our own situation, where vaguely defined, those definitions were there, and items, they were also available to us. So in our case, it was the third situation. So,
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
sir.
Thank you. Now it's very clear. Ma'am, one
Thank
add-on
you.
question to this is, at times scholars say that we have a scale, but one particular dimension we add new. We want to add new. So can the same process be applied here, like starting with
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
items?
So in that case again, interview has to be done. When I say interview, it is not basically, the way the people who are doing qualitative research, the way they record the interview. No, because this is the fourth dimension to that construct. You have clarity regarding the items under that dimension. Is it clear? Now, if you are clear that these items are different from the items which fall under the remaining three dimensions of that construct, but what you need to do is, in order to go for and in order to establish the content validity of your that fourth dimension, you need to consult the academicians, so that they should validate it. Validation, when I say content validation, so content validation means they need to validate that yes, there is a need, and there is a need to at least, to modify that scale. Modification of the scale is required. Why? Because of the relevance of the fourth dimension. So for that, and in that case, at least 4 to 5 academicians, very senior academicians, who are actually an authority on that particular topic or on that particular construct. So you need to consult them, so that you get a confidence that yes, that there is a need to add one more dimension to it. And also that the items now which we have generated for those that particular dimension, so those items, they are very pertinent and they are very relevant for that dimension. Yes, sir.
Correct, ma'am. So just to give an example, like in your scale, you have referred to the three dimension, like
Yes,
methodology,
sir.
mindful, etc. So maybe
Yes,
down
sir.
the line, after 20 years, somebody may explore that maybe technology and something else should be there. So the same process should
Yes.
be applied for getting the fourth dimension.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So same procedure has to, because say, even in that case, it is not only the, when you say after a gap of 10 years or 15 years, we need to refresh our mind, and we need to relook into the items falling under the previous three dimensions as well, sir. They may not be relevant after 10 years.
Very true.
So that's why,
Very
the scale can be revalidated also in that context, sir. Yes,
right.
sir. Very
Correct.
much right.
So, ma'am, going further, you said that whenever you add new dimension or even a new skill, you should always talk to the expert. Now, here comes a practical
Yes.
problem, ma'am. Ma'am, you comes with the experience of
Mhm.
more than 2 decades. You got a position and a very good team also. But most of our scholars are very young. So they might be knowing some professors, but why these professors will reply to them, and the practical problems come. So how to handle those situations, ma'am?
Yes, I mean, this is actually a very real problem. I mean, real problem, because even I had been the scholar also. Only thing is, in that case, so my own personal experience is that the people who are accomplished, those people who are highly accomplished, they don't mind replying to even a scholar's query. But somehow, I think you are right. In this case, the best solution is they should they should ask their supervisor. A scholar should ask the supervisor. At least the supervisor is in a position to contact you, because sir, in this case, what we are trying to do, what a scholar is trying to do, is he is trying to make additions to the existing literature, body of literature. So in that case, even a supervisor should also contribute, sir. Like my scholar, if he or she would ask me that, that this is what I want to do, So this much, at least being a supervisor, so I can always extend my help and support to this to my scholar can conduct the interviews, but the initial contacts and those things can always be developed by the supervisor. And in that case, maybe the people like you who are easily accessible and approachable, so I mean you have such a good network, sir, so I think they can always approach you, and I am so always happy. So for such type of interviews and other things, I am always happy. Like if the scholars they want to contact me also for any concept or any particular construct, so I think I would be more than happy to look into those items, and to also I'm happy for discussion also on those items. So I think such people, they are always there to help the scholars, because we want that even our Indian scholars, they should also make their presence at the world level. So
Absolutely. And very, very
yeah.
true,
So we
ma'am.
need to find the ways. We need to
Yes,
find
ma'am.
the ways.
And the
People
role
are
of,
there to help, sir.
yes, ma'am. And the role of
My
supervisor is
scholar,
very,
I want to share here. My scholar, he established a contact with the professor in Pakistan, because that boy is going for that mathematical modeling, and that Pakistani academician is very happy to help him. So people are there, sir. You need to search.
yes, very true, very
Yes,
true.
sir.
So, okay. Okay, ma'am, then when we go ahead with the interview, though a total separate session can be conducted on how to go for the interview, but in short, ma'am, like, can it be online or is it had to be offline? Are there any protocols for the interview? What sort of data we
So
generate and how to analyze? Sorry, it's a long question,
yeah,
but
yes. Okay, sir. So in this case, I think it is always better, because I'm discouraging my scholars to go for the Google form also to collect the data, because at the end of the day, you are not able to get quality data, quality responses in that case. So I think instead of opting for an online interview, it is always better. So at a later stage, you can always go for that. But initially, what you need to do is you need to sit with the academician or maybe a practitioner. So you need to sit with him, and you need to read each and every item, and discussion has to be made. I still remember in one of my scholars case, what we did, I invited five marketing experts in my room only, in the Department of Commerce only. I invited five people, and my scholar read each and every item, and we had discussion on all the items. So I think face to face is always better to go for the focus group interview. If you feel that all the experts, they can be, you can always invite them, and you can request them to be present at one particular time. So I think that case, face to face interviews, they are more useful, because and one is face to face interview, second is focus group interviews, they are more useful, because I have experienced it. So that is more, because one discussion, so one if a one professor is discussing something, so the other professor can also add to it something. Seriously. So I think focus group, when I say, even if you have including your supervisor, you have four or five academicians, so good enough. I mean, in that case, maybe in that would be the best approach to follow. So interview. So now when you talk about the protocols, so like in our case, because we contacted the marketing academicians, we contacted the operations academicians also, we contacted the bank managers also, the practitioners also. So in this case, the protocol, if you would ask me now, because the very first dimension of throughput orientation is the mindset. So mindset means we need to confirm the items regarding employee orientation and customer orientation, whether those items, they are appropriate or not, and all the items which we have generated under employee and customer orientation, they are relevant for that particular dimension or not. In order to confirm that, that's why we first contacted the marketing academicians. Then we contacted the operations people, because we wanted to confirm the items regarding the measurements and the methodology, more particularly the measurements, sir, because no other I mean, the HR people or marketing people, they cannot comment on the measurement aspect of the throughput orientation. That's why in the second phase, we contacted the operations people. Third phase, the practitioners, the branch managers, they were contacted. Why? Because more particularly regarding the methodology, that was the third dimension of that construct. Because the methodology talks about the constraint, it talks about the identifying the problem. So whether that procedure is being followed, and all the items regarding the methodology, whether we are able to, No doubt, we consulted the operations people also for methodology. But finally, why did we contact the branch managers in the first place? It was so that they can confirm whether all those items which we have put under methodology, they are relevant in the banking context or not. Right, so those were not so generic items. Yes, I mean, you can always twist those items. The rewording can be always done so that so as to make those items appropriate and to fit into the in a different environment. But that's why this is the protocol which we followed. So you need to see that even if you are talking about any other concept, let us talk about the mindfulness also to that matter. Some so you have to see that the person who has the conceptual clarity regarding mindfulness, so we need to contact those people first. And then the second, people who have done some empirical work. On the empirical work means those to whom you find that they might be some use to you. Like in that case, protocol means professors, they have very much clear, they have the clarity in their mind regarding the concepts. When you talk about the associate professors or the assistant professors, they are more practical. So they'll be able to help you to generate the items, and they'll be able to help you, I mean, they'll be able to comment on the appropriateness of those items. So I think the senior most should be consulted first, followed by the that hierarchy can always be followed, sir, in that case. And when you talk about the how to record these interviews, because we go and we contact them with a set of items with us. So what you need to do is you need to write down in your diary itself, with regard to each and every item. So maybe on the sheets also, the first item, and you can leave a space so that you can write down the comments of each and every expert to whom you have contacted. So this is how, and then you can reword, or you can look into those items again. You have to contact them once you do that revision of your questionnaire, those items in your question, you need to contact them again. So that so it is not that one time exercise. At least three times you need to repeat the exercise 3 times. So this is how we have done the recording. So we have changed those items accordingly, and then we contacted the same people again, so that they can help us. Just, I mean, and after a gap of one, when you would contact them after a gap of 2 to 3 months, then those the previous things would not be there in their mind, so they would give a very fresh look to your items. So that is more useful for the scholars. This is
Right.
how we have actually made the changes in our items also, so.
Great, ma'am. It's a very, very important point, ma'am. One thing you told that it's okay to have the different expert for the different dimensions. It's very important to know that for
Yes,
the
sir. Yes.
mindfulness, it can be something else. For resource, something else. It can be practically possible. So, ma'am, one
Yes.
just out of the context question, it's a very costly process calling the people to your campus. Maybe you are paying some honorarium. Is there any provision for the research scholar in the universities for such?
So I think what matters is ultimately the mindset of the teachers also. There are few academicians, Indian academicians, Indian researchers, those who are very knowledgeable, but at the same time, they don't want to share their knowledge. One thing. But for the scholars, what they can do is, I think, only, I mean, there is a good environment, a very research environment prevails in our department. So thing is, we need to, and if even if the teachers are not interested, scholars, they can create an environment. I have seen this environment, even in the Punjabi University also. So Professor Manjeet Singh, his scholars, so they have also created that environment. Scholars, if they are serious, they need to create an environment. And the best way in this case is, if suppose that somewhere some workshop is going on, or the faculty development program is going on, or the when you talk about the practitioners, so if somewhere MDP is going on, so that best way is to approach those academicians at that time, or when at the time of the conference, at the time of the seminar. So that provides you with a platform where you can get few academicians. And even after the sessions they are over, so you can contact them. So these are the, I think, I mean, so scholar has to, even we people are not so fortunate, sitting in Jammu. The people, scholars who are in Delhi, so one or the other academic event, research related event keeps going. So they are, I mean, that way they can be. Otherwise they can request, because in every university we have the commerce department, we have the management department. So out of a total pool of 20 teachers, at least you would find that 3 4 teachers would be happy to share some time, to, and also to provide their feedback on your questionnaire.
Correct,
So
ma'am. Very
again,
true. Very
personal
true.
efforts, sir.
Very true. So you have given these two wonderful tips. So one, always go to the conference also, ma'am, where you can find the
Yes,
real
yes.
practitioner also coming and you can meet them. Conferences is
Yeah.
a very good and very economic way of getting in touch with the people of your area. And then going to the
Yes.
FDP, etc. This is a wonderful way.
Yes.
Ma'am, generally I have seen that in case of project, whenever we apply for project, we keep a particular head for that, like maybe talking to the experts, going conducting interview. But in the PhD
Interviews. Yes.
process, generally there is no such fund available. To my mind, might be it's
There are
available,
no funds.
but
Yes,
in
sir. There are
projects
no
it's available.
funds.
But
Yeah,
going
even
to
I am not
conferences,
aware of.
yeah, going to conference is a very wonderful way, ma'am. That's very clear. Okay, ma'am.
And in India also, sir, many institutes, when we talk about the management and commerce, many institutes are now, I mean, like, I would also recommend, there is a conference being organized by IRMA now in December, I think
Hmm.
17th, 18th December. So, no, 2021, 22, 17th, 18th, the conference is being organized by IM Ahmedabad, that is on networking. And then 20% 22nd, these 3 days, and there is a doctoral colloquium also there.
Hmm.
I would recommend, I would suggest also the scholars to attend that IRMA conference. I think it would be very useful for them.
Correct.
So I mean, so, and there, maybe if suppose that I am going, so I can request 2 3 more academicians to help a scholar in that case. So
Absolutely.
wherever I would be there, so I would be more than happy to extend my support to the scholars. So I can
Definitely.
request, in that case, I can request the other teachers also to look into their question.
Sure, ma'am.
That we can do.
Wonderful. Ma'am, going ahead with the interview, you told that it's like you read out a statement, then everybody will ponder upon that, and then again. So what I understood, there is no way we are using NVivo or any other software. That's not required.
No, 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 sir. At least in my case, I did not use it, and I would like to share here one episode. We called a professor, very senior professor from Punjab University. So, ma'am, her work was on ethnography only. So that time, when I asked her that, ma'am, are you using some software? And we were at Atlas TI, for analyzing the items, for item analysis. She said that, Gurjit, it is always better when you talk about qualitative, do not depend on these softwares, because the way you would analyze it, so that your software would not help you to analyze the items in the same manner. So I think for the qualitative research, one should look into his or her own knowledge and the wisdom also. So I did not use any, and I would also suggest the scholars not to use any. I mean, yes, if you are going for qualitative research, and there if you find that, because concept has not been defined, it is vaguely defined, and you want to gain more clarity regarding, then you can use NVivo, is the popularly used software. Then there you can go for when you are looking for some item analysis. In our case, we did not use, because items were there, and it was the discussion only which was made among the academicians. So that discussion was fruitful for us to finalize the items. We did not use any software, sir.
Very true, very correct. So software is not required. Maybe for some other aspect of qualitative study, there we can use
Yes,
NVivo, but in scale
there.
development may not be that
Yes,
helpful. In fact, I remember,
not.
ma'am, there is a technique I talked a couple of times, IRT, item response theory. That's a fantastic tool. There's a free software
Okay,
available for that. Books are there.
okay,
Someday we will talk
okay.
about that also. That's again a very powerful
Yes, I want to listen about that, sir.
Definitely, ma'am.
Even I want to listen about that.
So,
Yes,
ma'am,
yes,
it's now very, very much clear. And if you allow, let me share my screen so that we
yes,
can
yes,
see side by side.
yes, sir.
I hope the screen is visible, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
So now the phase one is very clear, and the scale actually is prepared at the end of the phase one. So we have
Yes, yes.
selected the some items. We talk to the people, like in your case, 5 marketing academician, then theory of constraint experts, branch
Operations
manager,
people. Yes,
and a
sir.
couple of people you have taken, and then finally we can get the content validity assessment. Now, recently I have uploaded a video of the same, how to calculate that, and I provided Excel file also. So now our
Okay.
scale is prepared, and now we will go for its refinement, its validation. Is that right, ma'am?
Right.
This is the process.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So in the second phase, you told about the sample domain because you are preparing the scale for a particular sector, maybe
Yes,
industry,
sir.
like in your case, banking. So it makes
Banking.
more sense now to check to them with the branch managers instead of the academicians, etc., or other people. So you worked
Yes.
in that way. You have given the complete details of that.
Yes.
Now coming to the phase 3, ma'am. One question here is, when we talk about the first two, they seem to be very similar, though you explained,
Okay.
but some doubts were there. Name is again the same,
Okay.
construct some criteria, everything is the same. So, ma'am, if you can elaborate the difference between these two.
Actually, sir, in the construct some criterion one. So, because we could identify there are three dimensions. Yes, sir. So, one is mindset, then measurement and methodology. In construct some criterion one, what we did, we compared the relationship. We looked into the relationship of one item of mindset with the total score of mindset.
Ma'am, here is a question. So when we take the total, like first item mindful consists of M1, M2, M3. Now, when you take the total, will it M1 also included in that total also?
M1 is included because what we are
Okay.
doing is we are taking the summated score of all
All
the
the three.
items falling under mindset,
Right.
sir. So that is MS1, MS2, MS3. Likewise, if there are 13 items, we would
Right.
take this total score of MS
Right.
and then we would compare each item of MS,
Right.
MS1 through MS13 with the
Right.
total score.
Right.
We'll look into the correlation.
Right, ma'am. Got it. So is there any software for that or you do manually, ma'am?
No, sir, manually, sir.
Okay. Right, ma'am. And what about the second one, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Construct some criterion to now because in this case, what we have done is MS1, that is one item of the mindset. We looked into its correlation with the total scale, the summated score of mindset measurement methodology.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
So
Complete.
each item falling under mindset, each item falling under measurement, each item falling under methodology. Earlier, we compared the item to its own dimension.
Ma'am,
First,
here is one question.
sir, construct some criterion one means one item shall be compared with the total score of that dimension.
Right, ma'am.
But criterion 2 means one item would be compared with the total score of the entire construct, all the dimensions taken together.
Correct, ma'am. Then, ma'am, what is the third one? Item to total. Is it? It again seems to be the same that of first and the second.
No, actually, in case of item to total correlation, so here what we looked into is the this is basically for the for looking into the Cronbeck alpha value.
Okay.
So in that case, if the value is less than 0.70, Cronbeck alpha value is less than 0.70. So then, I mean, in this case, it is below 0.50. So we deleted that item so that our reliability would improve.
Okay.
In the third case, the actually here the focus is different.
Okay.
We want to check the reliability here, sir.
Okay. And item to
Reliability of
total.
each dimension.
Right, ma'am. And
Yes,
perhaps
sir.
item to total can be done by SPSS. When
Yes,
we
sir.
calculate alpha, it is given there. You can click
Yes,
and fill.
yes. These values we got from the SPSS only, sir.
Right,
SPSS,
ma'am.
sir.
And ma'am, then going ahead with the next one, mean should be less than 4. What exactly it means, ma'am? Why we are going
No,
for that?
actually, the way arrows they are given, so it should be mean should be more than 4, variance should be more than 0.90.
Okay, okay, it is more than. Right.
Even item to total correlation also it should be, I mean, we are saying the greater than 0.50, greater
Okay.
than 4.0, greater than 0.90.
Right, right,
Greater,
right.
yes, sir.
Okay, it's greater.
So sir, इसमें like when we say mean should be greater than 4 because the items under each dimension. So because when we looked, because we have already went through that rigorous procedure, academicians they have agreed to all those items, and they are in this case when even we talk to the practitioners also, they are also following that those measurements, and the methodology also, everything is being followed. So our intention was that if any item has received a mean which is less than 4.0, so it means that item has not been read properly,
Oh,
or the interpretation of that item is somewhere wrong.
okay.
So we looked into the mean given for each item.
Okay. So, ma'am,
Yes, sir.
was it asked on the 5 point anchor points? or 7 point?
No, in this case, it was 7, sir.
7 point. Okay, 4 means the middle one you should take.
Middle.
If somebody is
Yes,
working with the 5, then it should be 3.
yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
and the anchor points
Because
were.
no item was negatively worded.
Hmm.
So we had an impression that that those items must be must be clear to each and every respondent,
Okay.
and they should agree. I'm not saying strongly agree,
Hmm. Correct. At least
because
that.
if somebody is disagreeing to an item, or if he is
Hmm.
not satisfied with any aspect of it, so which
Correct.
means that he is an outlier.
Right. Right, man. Correct. Hmm. So it means the anchor points were strongly disagree to strongly agree.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In that case,
Yes, sir. It was strongly disagree to strongly agree.
yeah, makes sense. It should be agree or strongly agree. 4 or 5 should be.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And lower the variance means all the people are of the same opinion.
Lower the now in this case we are saying variance should be above 0.90, means not that everybody should give 4 or everybody should give 5 or every
Okay.
most of them should give 6 or 7.
Variance should be there.
Not that so there should be some variability which can be from between 4 to 7.
Right.
It could
Right.
be any point from
Hmm.
4 to 7.
Right, ma'am, right. Then we go for EFA, and we are going for EFA, ma'am, because primarily it is a reflective one. So EFA makes sense. And
Yes,
finally,
sir.
we go for the confirmatory, and you already told about that. Just, ma'am, one, two more questions are there. The
Yes,
two
sir.
questions are there. One is regarding the marker variable. When somebody
Okay.
is developing a new scale, is it advisable to give a marker variable at that stage, or should it be left to the researchers later?
No, no, sir. I think when you are developing an item, at that time, because, sir, ultimately your procedure would end up with CFA. When talking about the scale development and validation, you need to validate also. And nowadays, when we are talking about the scale validation, construct validation, without reporting the marker variable findings, you would find it difficult to place your. So it is nowadays it is advisable that you should keep 2 3 unrelated items. That would also help a researcher to check whether the respondent was actually serious at the time of filling up the questionnaire or not.
Right,
Right, sir. So I
right.
think in your questionnaire, maybe at the end or somewhere in the between also, between the dimensions also, wherever you feel like you should keep at least 2 items which are not related to your study,
Okay.
so that you can also check the seriousness.
Yes, common
So
method
at the
biasness can
time,
be checked.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
Okay.
once you are sure that this is your final questionnaire and you are going to go with the final data collection, I'm not talking about the pre-testing
Hmm.
aspect. I mean, at that stage of pre-testing, no need to go for it. At the stage of pilot testing, also, no need to go for it. At the final stage, you should keep.
Right, ma'am. Because
Yes,
common
yes,
method biasness is very important. People
yes,
ask for it these days.
yes, sir.
So that's a
Very
good
much.
one. And ma'am, my final question is one of our friend recommended that whenever you call the term as scale, it must have a key also, just like they do in the psychology. So is it necessary, ma'am, in the marketing also? We should give a key, like your score is from this to this, your behavior is like that, or tell something about that. Is it should be given in marketing?
I think it is. I think it is more relevant in case of psychology. But many terms, even we have also many concepts we have also borrowed from the psychology discipline only, domain only. So,
Mhm.
like if I have to talk about the customer satisfaction,
Hmm.
simple customer satisfaction, or if we talk about the perceptions of the customers, talk about the attitude of the customers. So in that case, those are the items even which we have borrowed from the psychology. But giving a key, I mean, normally this is not the practice among the marketing academicians, but among the academicians in the domain of in the discipline of psychology, they do that.
Hmm.
But can you sir highlight any example here? Can you bring some?
Even I have not seen, ma'am. Psychology we have seen. Almost it's a
Ah,
mandatory, but marketing I have never seen.
yes. No, sir. Even I have not.
Hmm.
I've never followed it, but it's always good, sir. Maybe
Hmm.
this is good for me also.
We can think
So
of
we
it.
can always think about it, and one should go for it. I suppose that
Right, ma'am.
in
So, ma'am,
future I would
thanks.
always keep in mind, sir.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. These were some of the queries for the scholars. I hope if
Thank you.
somebody else scholar have some doubts, we can have some other session someday.
Sure.
So we'll talk.
Sure, sir. Sure,
Thanks a
sir.
lot, ma'am.
That is the main purpose of the teacher and the academician also, so that we can help our scholars, sir, to the extent possible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, sir.